All right. Hello, everyone. It's Miss Scoopford, and I'm back with our cooking math lesson because there's so much math in cooking. And if you don't do a lot of cooking at your house, you maybe don't know about that. And so while we're remote learning, I guess is an awesome time to try to learn math while we're cooking. And plus, then you get to eat something yummy at the end, so what can go wrong with that? So today I'm going to teach you how to make bread in a bread machine. If you haven't done that before, you do need a bread machine. That's a little tricky. Maybe another episode we'll actually try to make bread without a bread machine, but I don't even know how to do that. So stay with us. I don't know. Okay. So first of all, I've got our favorite bread machine recipe. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. And we got that from our friends Will and Sue. Shout out to them. It's super yummy. So I've got our recipe there. And I've got all the cooking things I need. These are dry measures, so we measure dry stuff with this kind of measure. And I had a wet measure. Uh-oh, I think it got put in the dishwasher on accident. So I had to get a wet measure. Cups like this, we can put wet things in, like as in, milk, water, that oil, maybe that sort of stuff. So I've got my stuff ready, and so I'm going to start. So the first thing is I need a 1 cup of water, and I need to heat it up in the microwave so it's warm. You have to follow directions pretty carefully on the yeast so that the yeast works. And so it says I need to heat it up to between 110 and 115 degrees. So I'm going to do that, put that in the microwave, and be right back with you. Okay, so I actually found the measure cup I was looking for. It calls for 1 cup of water. So you can see I've got the 1 cup of water right there. And 1 cup is always also equal to 8 ounces. So there's my 1 cup. I'm going to put it in the microwave. Okay, so while that is microwaving to heat up a little bit, I have my butter. If you are not familiar with looking at butter, oops, let's see this upside down. It actually tells you how many tablespoons. It shows you how to measure with the tablespoons. So you can see I need 3 tablespoons. So I'm just going to measure straight over, and I'm going to cut the butter right there, because even though this says 4 tablespoons, 5 tablespoons, 6 tablespoons, you can see I've already used that other part. So this is actually the 1st tablespoon, the 2nd tablespoon, and the 3rd tablespoon. So I'm going to cut that off and measure that and put that right into the pan. So you'll watch me do that. Here I go. I open it up, and I just cut it right where the line is. Now, the other piece is I don't want that big chunk of butter to fall in by itself, so I'm going to cut that into smaller pieces before I put it into the pan so that it melts and mixes around better. The other one is just such a big chunk that it could get kind of clogged up. So I cut it into smaller pieces, and then I let all those pieces drop right into the pan. Now my water is hot, so I'm going to go ahead and pour my water into the bread pan. And I also need to put in 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I'm going to take my measuring spoons. A tablespoon is the big one. And I don't know if you can see it on there, but it actually says 1 tablespoon on there. Oh, well, you can see a little bit, I guess. So I'm going to take that, and this is my canister of sugar here. I'm going to measure to make sure it's flat to the top and not like a bulge, but takes up the whole thing. And so I put that in. I also need 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So this is a tablespoon, the big one. This is a teaspoon. And again, I don't know if you can see that, but maybe you can. There, yeah, a teaspoon. So this is a teaspoon. Now, I'm not going to measure this over the top and pour like this. Can you figure out why I'm not going to measure it right in over the top? It's because sometimes I spill, just to say it right out. And if I spill a whole bunch of salt in there, ooh, that's, first of all, it's going to kill the yeast. And secondly, it's just not going to taste good. So instead, I've already used this measuring cup. So I'm just going to use this and measure right over the top of here as I pour it in and make sure it's nice and flat. I'm going to level it off to make sure I have just the right amount. Oops, see, there it is. I spilled a little bit. Add a little bit extra. There's 1 teaspoon. Now I go to the 1/2 teaspoon, which is tinier, and I do the same thing because I need 1.5. You will not find a 1.5 measure anywhere, no matter where you buy your stuff at. But you just have to say, okay, well, that's 1 and then another half. So that's that. Now, I don't know if you can see this. That's what we have in our pan right now so far. So now we're ready to add the flour. So I'm going to switch out my canister of sugar. This is my canister of flour. Oh. Now, I'm going to get a clean knife because this has butter on it, and I need to measure the flour. So I'm going to go get a clean knife. Here we go. And here's how I'm going to measure the flour. I'm going to take my 1 cup measuring cup, and this is easy. That actually really shows it super easily. I need 2 3/4 cup of flour. So there's a 1 cup. So I'm going to scoop it in. If you haven't measured flour before, you have to kind of tap it to get it to go all down in there. And then you level it off by turning the knife upside down and leveling it right there. So you get a nice flat level. And this is, again, a dry measure. I didn't use the liquid one that I used for the water. That's different because that measures liquid. This measures dry. So there's 1 cup. So I put that in. Am I done? No, I need 2 3/4 cup. So I go back in again. Do the same thing. Get it so it's all, kind of poke it so it all gets down in there, and then level it off. There it is, nice and flat. There's 2. Now, 3/4 cup, let's look. These are all the teaspoons and tablespoons. We have 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, and then what I've been using. What am I going to do? There isn't a 3/4 cup. We're going to have to take that number apart, aren't we? So we're going to have to figure out 3/4. What would that be? Because we don't have a 3/4, and I can't just use this and guess. That wouldn't really make the bread turn out right. So I know that 3/4 is the same as 1/2 plus another 1/4. So I'm going to use 1/2 and then also another 1/4. So I dig in with the 1/2 and I poke it and level it off flat. Then I go in with the 1/4 and I poke it and level it off flat. Now my flour is in. I'm ready to go. The only thing left I have is the yeast. So here's the yeast, and I do have to use bread machine yeast because it's a bread machine. If we were doing this and not using bread machine, we could just use regular yeast, but bread machine yeast is specific for bread machines. So I need 1.5 teaspoons. So again, I take my teaspoon, make sure it's nice and level. And this is kind of tricky. I got to put it right on top of the flour. I don't want to put it right into the water and salt mixture because that water and salt mixture just by itself with the yeast sitting in it would kill the yeast. So I put in 1. Now I got to put in another. There it is. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. Oh yeah, you can see this with the yeast sitting right on top of the flour. There it is. So that's it. So now I'm going to put it into the bread machine just like this. And the bread machine actually does everything. It mixes it, it lets it raise, it bakes it, and then the beeper goes off when it's done. So that's pretty great. That's pretty easy. So I'm going to pause this while I put it in for a second. Clear this mess away and clean up. Make sure you always start with clean and dry everything and then end, pick up your mess with clean and dry everything. Your lesson, your task for this makes a 1.5 pound loaf. What if I wanted more? What if instead of 1.5 pounds, what if I wanted a 2 pound loaf? That's your test. This is hard stuff. So what if you had to change this recipe? My bread maker can still accommodate 2 pounds, and then I would get more bread for the same amount of work. What if I wanted to change this recipe to make a 2-pound loaf? In the omelet video, I just asked you to double and triple and quadruple. This is much harder because to go from 1.5 to 2 pounds is tricky. So good luck. See what you can do. And I will come back with a video on how to do that, maybe in a couple days, to give you a few days to try it, maybe next week. So in that time, have a wonderful time giving it a try. And if you do try a baking recipe, feel free to take a video of yourself with your Chromebook and post it either on Seesaw or something else, or send me an email or a chat and let me know. Good luck. Bye.